impossible. Wang Cao is also in a state of disbelief. Before he came, he had made sure to look into Zhang Xuan's strength. Back then, the information he got was that he was only fighter 3 zhenqi realm, a weakling. How could he possibly stop his attack with just 2 fingers? In order to achieve such a feat, not only must one possess sufficient strength, he must also be precise in his timing, control over his strength, his positioning and many other factors. If there were to be a slight discrepancy in his judgment, it is possible for his fingers to be severed and he would be severely injured. The other teachers, or perhaps even the Pig's realm elders, would be unable to achieve such a feat. Yet, a fellow who is reputed to be trash. Impossible. Coincidence. It must be a coincidence. Such a thought pops into his mind. A savage look appears on Wang Cao's face once more and exerting strength through his both hands, he howls, "Let go." He wants to retrieve his sword, that is trapped between the 2 fingers of Zhang Xuan. However, despite trying twice consecutively, to the point that veins are popping out on his temple, and that he is about to vomit blood due to overexertion of strength, he is astonished to realize that the sword, that is held between the Zhang Xuan's fingers, seems to be firmly latched onto his fingers. No matter how much strength he exerts, it doesn't budge in any way. Could it be his true strength isn't zhenqi realm? A peculiar thought appears in his mind. But this is impossible. It hasn't been long since the last teacher qualification examination. Everyone in the academy is aware of the fact that he only has the strength of a zhenqi realm pinnacle. Furthermore, even if he were to break through his current realm, he would only be at pigu realm, which is the same level as him. He wouldn't be so hard-pressed just by a mere 2 fingers of the other party. Scram! Just as Wang Cao is considering the peculiarity of this situation, a surge of might suddenly comes rushing towards him through the sword and the impassive words of the other party echoes by his ear. Who? Before he could even react, his entire body is sent flying through the air. Boom! His head bashes through the door of the classroom. Alright, let's continue on with our lessons. After casually throwing Wang Cao out, Zhang Xuan turns towards the rest and says blandly. Wang Ying, Zhao Ya, Liu Yang, Zheng Yang and Yuan Tao stare at one another. The turn of events left them unable to react, and they are on the verge of exploding due to the overwhelming shock. That is a fighter for Dan Pigu realm expert. Not mentioning how an attack of his full strength was easily dealt with, to think he would be thrown out with such ease. Isn't this teacher of theirs the worst teacher with the lowest combat ability in the entire academy? How did he do it? Teacher has been hiding his strength? Suddenly, Zhao Ya comes to a realization as her face flushes from excitement. The only viable explanation is that the teacher, before her, has been concealing his true strength. If not, how could he possibly point out the problems, whom no one else could discern, and boost their might with just a casual pointer? The others aren't fools as well. They clench their fist in agitation. Coming to the academy to come under the tutelage of the teachers, who wouldn't hope to be under the guidance of a capable teacher. Before this, everyone thought that their lives would be miserable, judging from how they came under the tutelage of the academy's worst teacher. Only now do they know that they have won in the competition of choosing one's teachers, an overwhelming one at it. The teacher with the worst reputation in the academy is actually a true worldly expert. When their path of thoughts reaches this point, all of the excessive thoughts disappear from their minds, as they nod their head vigorously. Even Liu Yang, who held doubts about Zhang Xuan's lessons, couldn't help but look over in enthusiasm, afraid that he would miss out a single word of his teacher. What Liu Xun Laoshi and Wang Cao Laoshi? All of these has been thrown to the back of their minds. Not just them, even the elders would have to kneel when compared to Zhang Laoshi. To rush in like this, I hope that young master is fine. Outside the classroom, old Liu looks worriedly at Wang Cao, who had barged into the classroom furiously. Rest easy, Wang Cao's Shaoye has reached Fighter 4 Dan Pigu realm, while that Zhang Xuan is still stuck at zhenqi realm. Soon, he would be able to teach him a lesson and bring young mistress Wang Yang out. Shaoye, young master. Yao Han nods his head with a bright smile on his face. Just as he is visioning the pathetic state the shameless teacher would be in with his teeth scattered all over the floor, he suddenly hears Wang Cao's furious howl from the room. It has begun. Yao Han's eyes light up and the edges of his mouth creep upwards. If that Zhang Xuan was only the last in the entire academy, Yao Han wouldn't be bothered to interfere in his affairs. However, to think that he would dare to be disrespectful to the young mistress. If Zhang Xuan didn't execute some underhanded tricks, how could the young mistress possibly willingly acknowledge him as her teacher? If Yao Han were to make a move personally, he would definitely incur the ire of the young mistress, not to mention offending the Hongtian Academy at that. It would be more than ideal for Wang Cao to make a move in his stead. Hongtian Academy is located in Tongxuan royal capital, the home ground of the Wang family. Even if Wang Cao were to beat up a teacher, they would definitely have the means to deal with it. Furthermore, Wang Cao is the disciple of an elder and holds an esteemed position in the academy. It is much more appropriate for him to make a move. I would like to see, how would that trash of a teacher embarrass himself? The more he thinks about it, the more delighted he gets. Yao Han creeps towards the doorstep, intending to open up a crack between the doors and peek through it, when he hears a boom and the tightly shut doors burst open. Pang! Yao Han didn't even have the time to react from this sudden assault by the metal door. It slams right into his face, rattling his consciousness. In the midst of his daze, a head comes crashing into him. Kacha. The intimate encounter between his face and the head creates the crisp melody of the cracking of a bone, and the two remaining teeth, that survived yesterday's attack after much difficulty, dislodges valiantly. Pooh! The intense pain causes Yao Han to convulse and a mouthful of fresh blood bursts forth. His body isn't fragile, but he had yet to recover from his injuries from the prior day. Yesterday, he had been bashed in his face and now, he was slammed by a metal door, before a head comes crashing into him right after. It is already quite a blessing for him to be alive at this point. Young master. Old Liu realizes that the one who was sent flying was his young master and he dashes over, frightened. Damn it, damn it. Wang Cao might have knocked into the metal door, but with Yao Han cushioning his fall, he isn't severely injured by that encounter. Standing up and recalling how the trash caught his blow and threw him out, he feels an intense fear. Although he shouted loudly, he didn't dare to approach the classroom anymore. Young Master Wang Cao, you. Faint-headed, Yao Han only realizes at this point that the one who knocked into him is Wang Cao. With an intrigued expression, he struggles to stand up. Didn't you rush in to beat him up? How come you are the one who was sent flying out? I was practicing as a new type of battle technique. Wang Cao didn't dare to say that he had been thrown out by a trash, so he could only come up with something else. Battle technique? Yao Han's vision is still blurry from the previous impact. He hurriedly questions, did you expose the true face of that fellow? How did our young mistress react? Cough cough. I didn't have the time to make a move when my younger sister pushed me out. I think. Why don't we try waiting here? Wang Cao says with an embarrassed look. Just a moment ago, he was still declaring how he would make the other party suffer. Yet, the next moment, he was sent flying out. He wouldn't acknowledge such a shameful affair, even if he were beaten to the verge of death. Wait? Yao Han scratches his head, as doubts appear in his mind. However, he didn't think that he should point them out, so he chooses to change the topic instead. Wang Cao Shaoye, I have a question to ask of you, seeing how you are also a student of Hongtian Academy. Shaoye, young master, go ahead. Seeing how Yao Han doesn't continue pursuing the events that transpired in the classroom, Wang Cao heaves a sigh of relief and replies, is there any female teachers in the academy who has Bai in their name? Recalling the fellow who beat him up the previous day, Yao Han's anger billows. Bai? The most famous one of them all is the academy's female goddess, Shen Bairu. I heard that Zhang Xuan Laoshi wanted to court her as well. He is truly a toad lusting over the flesh of a swan. Halfway through his words, Wang Cao pauses abruptly. Before this, everyone knew that Zhang Xuan's abilities were subpar and his capability as a teacher was horrendous as well. With such standards, he dared to pursue the academy's female goddess Shen Bairu. That's why everyone termed him as such. Now that Wang Cao has experienced the other party's strength firsthand, and understands that he is on a different level from him, he finds it unnatural to continue saying that he is a toad lusting over the flesh of a swan. Shen Bairu? Zhang Xuan wants to court her? Yao Han's eyes light up as he comes to a realization. The person whom the fellow yesterday was talking about must be her. He continues asking, other than Zhang Laoshi, is there anyone else who is courting her? Shen Laoshi is incredibly beautiful. The teachers who wish to court her are far too many for me to count. However, the most famous of them all is the grandson of Elder Shang Chen, Shang bin Laoshi. After pondering for a moment, Wang Cao looks over in suspicion. Why is Butler Yao asking such a question? Oh, I am just casually asking. Yao Han doesn't touch any further on the topic, but a glint flashes past his eyes. I will be able to ascertain it after looking into whether this Shang Bin had gotten into a conflict with Zhang Xuan yesterday. If it really is him, regardless of whether he is the son of an elder, I would definitely make him suffer. When had the butler of the Baiyu city lord, a figure that rises above the others, standing beneath only an individual, suffered such a great injustice? If he doesn't seek vengeance on him, it would be hard to quell the resentment accumulating in his heart. For it, he is willing to turn into a demon. While Yao Han is still considering whom he should find to gather intelligence, the person in question, Shang Bin, had just finished conducting a lesson and had left his classroom when he met a young man. Cao Zhang Laoshi. Shang Shaoye. Shaoye, young master, Cao Zhang says respectfully. Cao Zhang Laoshi, you were looking for me? Shang Bin looks over with a puzzled expression. They might be both teachers of the academy and they often bump into one another, but their relationship is still stuck at the level of an acquaintance. Indeed. I have something which I would have to trouble Shang Shaoye with. Cao Zhang hesitates for a moment before speaking. As long as it is something I could help you with, I will try my best. Cao Zhang replies. As the grandson of Elder Shang Chen, there are quite a few teachers who come looking for him for favors every day and he has long gotten used to it. Is that so? Yesterday, I took much difficulty in admitting a student under my tutelage, but he was snatched away by another teacher through deception. Isn't Elder Xiong in charge of the education bureau? I would like to ask if it is possible to transfer the student back to me. Cao Zhang says. Liu Yang is the best student, which he spent a lot of effort to recruit. Yet, he lost him to Zhang Xuan due to that bet. When he returned, he got angrier and angrier the more he thought about it. Eventually, he couldn't bear it anymore, and came to look for Shang Bin today. Shang Bin's grandfather is Elder Shang Chen, the head of the academy's education bureau. Allocating a student to another teacher would be quite a simple feat for him. Transfer back? Shang Bin frowns. If that student willingly came under the other person's tutelage, it would be difficult. You also know that students are much more troublesome nowadays. If they are dissatisfied with anything, they would report the incident to the royal court and the teacher union, then we will. He isn't willing. I can guarantee that. Cao Zhang hurriedly replies. Even if he isn't willing, if the other teacher is unwilling to let him go, it won't be easy as well. You know the school rules. Shangbin waves his hand. Suddenly, he raises his head and asks, just now, you said? Deception? May I know which teacher is the one who coaxed your student over? It is our academy's trash teacher Zhang Xuan. Speaking of that young man, Cao Zhang clenches his jaws and hatred could be plainly seen on his face. Zhang Xuan? Your student was coaxed over by him? Hearing that name once again, Shangbin's rage burns once again. If it wasn't for this fellow, he would definitely be able to get a dinner date with his goddess. A fellow, who is only fighter 3 Dan, and scored a 0 for him teacher qualification examination would actually dare to disregard his authority. He is seeking for death. If it wasn't for the presence of the goddess yesterday such that it was inconvenient to resort to physical means, he would have definitely beat him until he is on the verge of dying. Yes. Since he is that kind of teacher, no humans would be willing to become his student. So, I would like to trouble Shang Shi to help me bring up this matter with Elder Shang, and allocate my student back. Cao Zhang says carefully, afraid that the other party would refuse his request. There is no need to bring this up with Elder Shang. I will settle this matter for you now. Shangbin waves his hand majestically. You're going to settle the matter for me? The other teachers might still require the help of my grandfather for the reallocation process, but since we're talking about the useless trash Zhang Xuan, why do we have to go through so much trouble? We just have to go to him straight, and if he refuses, we will cripple him. Shangbin gestures grandly. He might be at a loss and means to deal with other teachers, but towards the one who scored a 0 for the teacher qualification examination, it is simply too easy for him to make a stand, to teach him a lesson. Disregarding his weak abilities, the crux of it is that no one in the academy would possibly come in his defense. The most important point of all is that he had intended to give Zhang Xuan a good thrashing, to vent his frustration, but he had been vexed over the lack of a suitable justification for it. If he were to strike without a suitable justification, he would surely leave a bad impression with Shan Bairu, if she were to find out. But now, he has duped away the student of another teacher, and the person in question has come over seeking for his help. He could make use of this reason to lash out at him. He didn't expect that Shangbin would be so generous. Cao Zhang is taken aback. There is no need for this. Come with me. If you're afraid, I will do it for you. The corners of Shangbin's lip curl upwards as a glint of brutality flashes across his eyes. Then, I will be thanking Shang Shi in advance. Cao Zhang's eyes light up excitedly as he nods his head hurriedly. The two of them moved towards Zhang Xuan's classroom with wide strides. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the entrance of Zhang Xuan's classroom, to see the mummy-like Yao Han and the young master of the Wang family. Wang Tao, what are you doing here instead of training over at grandfather Shangbin frowns. He might be the grandson of Elder Shang Chen, but he is still a little off in terms of standing in comparison to Wang Tao. Shangbin Laoshi. Wang Tao bows. My younger sister was duped to attend lessons here. I intend to take her back. Shangbin. Yao Han was still considering whom he should gather intelligence on Shangbin, from when he heard that the young man before him is Shangbin. He hurriedly lifts his head to take a good look at him. You mean Wang Xiaojie? Shangbin's face darkens. Coldness radiates out of his eyes as he declares that Zhang Xuan is really too daring. To dare to dupe even Wang Xiaojie, he must be tired of living. Looks like if I don't teach him a lesson, it would be hard to appease the crowd. Xiaojie young mistress indeed. Wang Tao nods his head. Since Wang Xiaojie was duped to come under his tutelage, Why don't you barge in to stop him, and chose to wait here instead? Haranfing, Shangbin looks over with a puzzled expression. That. Wang Cao dares not to admit that he was thrown out. Scratching his head, just when he is perplexed over how he should answer, Yao Han, who is beside him, says, "Isn't there a rule in the academy that states that entry into a classroom is disallowed in the midst of a lesson? Thus, we could only wait outside for the lessons to end." This is. Only now does Shangbin notice the mummy-like Yao Han. This is the butler of City Lord Zhao of Baiyu City, Yao Han. Wang Cao hurriedly introduces him. "So, it is Butler Yao. I have long heard of your name." Shangbin nods his head and continues, "There is such a rule in the academy, that no one is allowed to barge into the classroom in the midst of a lesson. However, it doesn't matter in this case. You all can follow behind me to enter the classroom. Today, I will personally take care of the fellow, who has no morals, as a teacher and goes around conning others." "All right." Hearing that he is going to make a move, Wang Tao's eyes light up and follows closely behind him. Yao Han hesitates for a moment before following behind them. In the classroom. Hongtian 9 Dan Formula. It might be the most basic cultivation technique of Hongtian Academy, but there are quite a few problems with it. For example, the 5 students sit in the classroom, listening attentively to Zhang Xuan's explanations. Despite it only being the first lecture, they are all incomparably shocked. It is as though they have consumed ginseng fruit, and is getting drunk on his words. The few students present in the classroom, with the exception of Yuan Tao, have exceptional backgrounds. They might have never gone to an academy, but they had learned everything systematically. They have undergone lectures of many different teachers, and even had the privilege of having fighter 5 Dan and 6 Dan experts offering them pointer. However, they had never been to such a lesson in their entire life. The lecture gives them a feeling of enlightenment. They found themselves suddenly comprehending many things that they were perplexed in the past. The breath in their body seems to be tempted to follow the methods which the teacher is describing to them, and a sensation that they would be able to break through any time now gushes through them. The lecture is simply too well said. Hearing Zhang Xuan's lessons, they realize that even the supposed high-level teachers pale greatly in comparison to him. This is especially so for Zhao Ya. As the daughter of a city lord, her father often deciphers cultivation techniques for her. Initially, she had always thought that her father is the best lecturer in the entire Tongxuan kingdom. After all, her father's strength is clear for all to see. However, in comparison to Laoshi, she feels like a frog in the well. It is laughable. There is totally no way to compare the both of them at all. Laoshi's explanations are spot on. No matter how incredible the cultivation technique and battle technique is, he is able to immediately spot the flaws in it, causing one to be shocked and go into deep thoughts, unable to calm the agitation in them for a long period of time. Often, a single deciphering sentence of Zhang Laoshi would send them into thoughts for half a day. After they finally comprehended after much difficulty, they would realize that he had already been talking for a long period of time, and that they had missed many of the knowledge which he had imparted then. Zhang Laoshi's standards are way too high. At this moment, the 5 students finally understand how deep the foundations of battle techniques, and how wide the tree of knowledge is within this young man, who isn't much older than them. Previously, I laughably thought that Zhang Laoshi had simply lucked out to make my strength soar instantaneously. Only now do I realize that, given his wisdom, it is a small feat for him to accomplish such greatness. There are more than 100 methods for him to make my strength increase by a fold. The previously arrogant Liu Yang couldn't help but tremble on the spot, in comparison to him, Cao Zhang Laoshi. Sigh, I better not compare the two of them. They are at totally different heights, there is no way to compare the two of them. It is like they both exist in different worlds. It is fortunate that they made that bet, otherwise, how could I possibly meet such a great teacher? The 5 students are each listening attentively to the lecture in agitation, afraid that they would miss some important knowledge. Jia. The door to the classroom is pushed open, and a few men walk in with large strides.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you